If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately. And here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. Woo! I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis- or disinformation. Yeah. And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship.
We just saw some talking heads on CNN claiming, oh, that's not true. Where's the evidence? Show us the proof of that happening.
Whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second, I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible.
Seriously? Meanwhile, on MSNBC and CNN, they act like they're smarter than the man we voted into office as president, the leader of the country. If he says it's happening, it's happening. Are these panelists on liberal news channels really more informed than the president?
And to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship. Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality.
Let's not forget, they kicked him off Twitter even while he was still in office. That's a fact. They even took down some of his tweets that day. Think about how messed up that is. We shouldn't live in a world where this kind of censorship is normal, yet these folks are perfectly fine doing it to others. The far-left media just keeps digging its own grave with this nonsense. It's crazy, people. Thanks, Trump, for standing your ground, no matter if it's against Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, the FBI, or the DOJ. Let's talk about all the YouTubers who got censored, blackballed, shadow banned, the ones who paved the way for the rest of us. They were out there taking hits before we even got started, crawling so we could walk. They made sacrifices so we could thrive, and for real, much respect to them, no cap.
Transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation and promoting terrorism, while dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis- and disinformation. The federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authoritarian project. If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interferences in the past, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more. We should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution and deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. In other words, deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country. Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and intelligence officials.
It's wild to think about the kind of censorship they faced. Like, how do we still have drill music floating around, but creators with real voices got silenced? That's the real question. It's all part of a plan to manipulate us, to control what we see and hear. Remember when they deleted the Nug Boys' first video with Trump? 20 million views in 2 hours and boom, gone. Why? Because it was reaching young people and they couldn't let that happen. Trump even called it. He straight up said, they're going to take this down. And guess what? They did.
There should be a 7-year cooling off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD is allowed to take a job at a company possessing vast quantities of U.S. user data. Fifth, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights. This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content, not send information requests such as the FBI was sending to Twitter. Furthermore, when users of big online platforms have their content or accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use, they should have the right to be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal. In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose. The fight for free speech is a matter of victory or death for America and for the survival of Western civilization itself. When I am president, this whole rotten system of censorship and information control will be ripped out of the system at large. There won't be anything left. By restoring free speech, we'll begin to reclaim our democracy and save our nation. Thank you, and God bless America.
Back then, you couldn't even say the word vaccine without risking a ban. Kyle talked about it during COVID. Those were some rough years for creators, man. They even messed with gun content. It's like they'll do anything to mess with your message, your money, your freedom. And don't even get me started on the deeper stuff. I'm really starting to think hip-hop music was co-opted as part of a bigger plan. It feels like they used it to manipulate Pan-African communities, targeting the culture to push their own agendas. Back in the day, they'd say, oh, they can't read, but they can listen real well. So they made music to feed people what they wanted them to believe. It's messed up, but it's all part of the game they're playing. You know what's really messed up in all of this? The way they overly sexualized women. But honestly, that's not even the worst part. It's the violence, the killings, all of it. And then there's that meme Elon posted. Remember the one? It was like a skull with a bullet trajectory labeled World War II and something about life on Mars. That was wild, but it really hits differently when you think about it. In America, man, it's a whole other level. The media plays the same game over and over, running the same play, and people just keep falling for it. They say there's no proof of censorship or manipulation, but that's the biggest lie ever. Mark Zuckerberg himself admitted to it, so how can these liberal media outlets still claim there's no evidence? It's all there, Trump being banned from Twitter, his interviews pulled from YouTube, and more. It's like we're living in a zoo of exhibits, exhibit A, B, and so on, and nobody wants to see it. We've watched it all play out in Congress, but the media just denies it. Plain and simple. They jump on CNN and act like nothing happened. It's infuriating. Honestly, the way they twist the truth and cover up what's really going on feels downright racist at times. We've got to fix this mess, not just for now, but for the sake of freedom.